Alright, welcome back to Let's Break Super Meat Boy. This time we're going to be doing Chapter 2, The Hospital in the Dark World. What's kind of unusual about these levels is that I think the first maybe 8 to 10 levels of this are actually a lot harder than the later ones, because the earlier ones all kind of deal with kind of tricky platforming. Like you can see right here, the first level is maybe the one I died at the most in this entire recording. But as we get into the later levels and they kind of throw obstacles that used to be really tricky when you were playing as Meat Boy, those are relatively easy when you're playing as Steve. Like, for example, there's a lot of levels later on that deal with lasers, and we can just pop a block in front of those lasers and not even have to worry about them. Which actually leads to some pretty cool solutions for levels too. But you know, you will see that when you see that. I will die almost guaranteed at least once or twice on each one of these early levels. Steve kind of flips the script on things, makes the platforming levels the hardest part, and the levels that used to be the hardest part, now the easiest part. And of course I could basically, you know, take my time with all of these levels and actually do a good job where I don't die as often, but you know, where's the fun in that? I would much rather spend half an hour in post-processing wasting my time to edit it than take an extra 10 seconds to make sure I'm doing a careful job as Steve. And if you couldn't detect my sarcasm there, maybe I'll lay it on a little thicker next time. What I'm basically doing here is just refusing to do what the game designers have planned out and just building my own ladder to heaven. So whenever anyone asks you where you were when the ladder to heaven was built, you could say, you know, I was sitting in my underwear watching Northern Lion YouTube Super Meat Boy. It was a momentous moment. It was a landmark in video game culture. And again, Chernobyl, or I guess Chernobyl? I think they're trying to make a pun on Cher, but in any case, this is kind of my experiment to figure out if blocks that Steve plants can block wind. Couldn't really get a definitive answer there. My guess is that they do, but it's probably more trouble than it's worth. They seem to block everything else, so I don't understand why they wouldn't block wind, although there are some inconsistencies in the game, to be sure. Yeah, but they block everything else. They even, kind of influence the shadow effects that you see on a level, so my guess is that they probably do block wind. If you have the kind of patience, tenacity, and lack of responsibilities and time needed to do other things to test that out, please do and get back to me, and I'll promise I'll be less condescending if I actually bring that topic up in a future video. So around here is where we start to get to the point where, well, this is like the last, or one of the last levels that is actually harder with Steve, or I should say just tricky with Steve compared to how it is with just Meat Boy. But still, not too bad, obviously. Someone sent me a message yesterday and said, I think too bad, or this level is not too bad, is my trademark. So, yeah, you heard it here first. That is my Let's Play catchphrase. This level's not too bad. This obstacle's not too bad. Anyway, this stuff really isn't too bad, because it's actually, this is the part where things start getting really easy, and this pace is kind of maintained for the rest of the game, actually. Once they, to some extent, get out of those heavy platforming elements and introducing new obstacles like these saws or these keys that you have to get, Steve excels because he can just blow right through them, and, well, by blow right through them, I mean completely ignore them. And again, this is one of those times where I just simply, through poor planning, ended up in a situation where I cannot break those upper blocks. And you'd think at some point I'd learn that I should just slot a platform under me or dig through the side, but, you know, you can never teach an old dog new tricks. And I'm pretty old in dog years. I wouldn't say I'm an old dog, though. That was probably the most bizarre non sequitur that I've ever done in a Meat Boy Let's Play, I have to say. I'm not going to apologize, though. I actually thought it was kind of cool. So on this level, you'd think that I could just tunnel like through the walls and get to Bandage Girl that way, but I can't. Believe me, I've actually tried. Because there is that like broken syringe material that's stuck in there that'll just end your life. So yeah, now we find out that Steve's blocks can block lasers. which is actually really effective for pretty much the last half of this level. Sorry, last half of this world, as well as the salt factory. And yeah, it saves us a lot of trouble, because here normally it's so tedious. You've got to wait and hide, but no, just pop a block in front of it, run as your heart wishes. It looks pretty badass too, if you put a platform under yourself that blocks a laser that was about to hit you, or one that would have otherwise hit you. It's just, you know, adds to your Super Meat Boy street cred, which is pretty important. Right now I have 95 Super Meat Boy street cred, and when I get some more, I'm going to trade it in and get a nice Indiglo watch. If you know what I'm saying. This is another level that is actually pretty cool to do with Steve compared to Meat Boy. Of course, I find a way to botch it miraculously, but I'll say that was intentional under the pretense that we get to watch that method again. Let's see that one more time for the folks at home who might have missed it. And actually, I did it that time a lot faster, but with better results as well. So for this one, you block the laser by putting a block on the right side, and then you just kind of, you know, work your way up, block the other laser, and mine to your heart's content. Completely break that key puzzle right there, and then just kind of hop your way up to Bandage Girl. Now actually, this is another level that kind of breaks the mold that we had so far, and goes back to those hardcore platforming elements. So as you might expect, this one's a little bit tricky for me with Steve. It's funny, with Meat Boy, I'm much better at the platforming levels than the levels with the lasers, or the saws, or the fans, or anything. With Steve, it is very much the opposite. Particularly since I can, you know, just block the harder obstacles. But Meat Boy, I think, he controls a little bit more naturally, partly because I've spent a lot more time with it. Anyway, I will see you guys next time for Part 3 in the Dark World.